Welcome to the Backpacking Pushers podcast, brought to you by the undisputed champion of ultralight quilts, Enlightened Equipment. Lighten your load at enlightenedequipment.com. With me today is a man who rescues houses from fires. Ben McAuliffe, how's it going, man?
It's going good. How are you? That's quite
Doing good. You said you had a rescue story, so what you got?
Yeah, so we got called cell phone. So we kind of talked about this a little off air with cell phones and beacons and all that. But we get a lot of cell phone messages, text messages to 911 recently with the new satellite stuff. And so we get dispatched and way up on the PCT. I mean, it's 2 hours of driving to get there. One of the Cal Fire engines got damaged because they hit a tree that was on the side of the road that was covered by brush. So kind of a frustrating time to get up there. But we're always there to rescue hikers. And we get to the top, we find the hiker, and they look okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we kind of twisted our ankle. We're just kind of looking for a ride down.
Oh, nice.
And we're like, we can't help you there. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
you
you're
can't
trying
give
to
a ride down?
Well,
what?
So
they twist their ankle, man.
They didn't twist it. They tweaked it. It was one where they felt this was the time to bail out, like they couldn't walk anymore, and so they more just wanted a ride into town so they could, like, again, eat and find food. And so the ambulance was like, well, we're here, we can't really do that, and because we left it up to the ambulance. I mean, like, our department's always like, we can take you and stuff. Cal Fire's a little different, but so the ambulance is like, oh, here's what we're gonna do. We'll put you in the ambulance, we'll take you down because we're going back to town anyways. And then when we get like a block away, just say you don't want to go to the hospital. We'll have you sign an AMA form against medical advice, and then you're free to go. But do you think that's something you kind of push the red button for? Is if, like, you can still walk and tweak it, but you're just kind of done?
All this stinking time, man.
So frustrating. Yeah, frustrating.
All the time. Yeah, but if it's something where you're like, really, where you're,
they were fine. Like, they should have.
And why not just charge them? Why, just have the ambulance take them down? Like, yeah, we'll give you a ride, and then here's your ambulance bill.
Yeah, I don't know how they'll handle that. Probably not, because
they were nice about it. But if you got a lot of those calls, I think I'd be frustrated. Be like, yeah, if you're gonna overuse the service, and now, like, if you're out servicing them, and then there's a real emergency that comes in, then you're farther away, whatever. So that's what I would do. But
yeah, it was frustrating. All our resources were up on this mountain, so if something else really tragic happened,
kudos to you guys for your patience. So
yeah,
speaking of rescue stuff, we have Moose Mutlow, veteran Yosemite Search and Rescue member, on our show. He was on our show last year, and he was such a good guest that I thought, let's bring him back on. I told him this already. I want to have him on every year, but we'll see if he's up for that. So he's got some search and rescue stories and pro tips, and he's just such an engaging speaker. But the heart of this episode is we're going to run some famous movie scenes by him to see what his take is on this. Are you excited for that?
I'm excited. Every time I watch Mythbusters, I'm always thinking of movies now and that.
Yeah.
So we got our own Mythbuster here.
Kind of, yeah. And then
real or
and
not.
we picked 6. That's what we had time for. Were there any movies that you're kind of sad didn't make the list?
I was torn because I wanted to throw in, like, River Wild. Maybe there's a lot on that one.
Yeah, I looked up some clips on that. What are you thinking on that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole movie in general is
just watch the whole movie to prepare, Moose, and then we'll pepper you with questions.
Yeah, well, because I mean, you think about it, like, there's a lot that I would do differently if people are trying to hold you hostage. But at the end, when they finally get free, the husband throws the mine cart over the ledge, and then it raises the tension of the rope, flips the raft over, and then they kind of all get to safety that way.
You feel like he would know about mine carts throwing the balance of a boat
off.
Timing
too. I mean, you got to time that whole thing.
Right.
Like, I feel like I try to push this mine cart off the cliff, and, like, it would get stuck, and there goes everybody downriver still. So yeah, I
don't know that he would have
a lot of weight
expertise.
Well, didn't make the list for a reason.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him about Princess Bride, but because it's a comedy, I was like, it's probably gonna get an F grade from him. But I wanted specifically the scene where, like, the man in black is climbing the rope, and then the rope gets cut, and then he's able to hang on to the cliff anyway.
Yeah.
Like, what are the chances of that? And he's not a climbing expert, but
yeah,
is that realistic?
I mean, if you know it's getting cut, you could
You
probably.
don't know what's gonna get cut though.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like if it gets cut, you're falling, and then hopefully you're close to the cliff to grab it. But if you know that they're cutting it, I think you can grab the cliff. I'm not really a rock climber. My grip's not good, so I don't think I'd be able to do that.
And even rock climbers, like, I don't think typically have their ropes get cut up top, right?
Yeah. So Carl's just going around cutting rope now. Just
Yeah,
to see. I just want to see if it was real or not. Let's just see.
See what happens. All right. What's the Bible verse of the episode?
Bible verse of the episode is Mark 6:7. And he called the 12 and began to send them out 2 by 2 and gave them authority over the unclean spirits. So, we talk about backpacking and going in numbers. So you think this was a wise decision to go 2 by 2? Like the first, Jesus was the first one to send people out the right way.
I mean, you definitely want to have partners with you. At least I do. I don't like them by myself.
I hate
going
by myself.
If it's like our Patreon trips, that's more just like bringing a circus, which is like 13 people. But it's probably better. What do you think?
I mean, it's always fun because you got someone to blame, if it goes wrong.
Right. All right. So here we go. Okay. So Moose is here. We've got him. We're gonna run all sorts of crazy things by him. Moose Mutlow coming up right now. Back with us on the BB podcast, Moose Mutlow, SAR Search and Rescue veteran, Yosemite. And thanks so much for joining us. Come back on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back. I'm glad I got a passing grade last time, so this is good.
Passing? What? Everybody loved you. That was like a highlight of our last season for sure. So I think we had you on back in, I want to say it was like May or June of last year. So it's been a little over a year since you've been on the show. Surely you've got some sort of crazy search and rescue story since then.
It's been an interesting year. We've had some ups and downs. I did really enjoy the one incident this spring where we got video shot of someone trying to make a river crossing above a very large drop, as you're familiar, the Yosemite Falls area.
I'm very familiar.
They got themselves into a location that is incredibly dangerous, and they decided they needed to cross the main flow of the river. And we
Wait, so which side were they on? Were they on the trail side?
They were on the western side, so on River Right. And two of them made it across. They secured a rope, and they essentially did a little tension diagonal, sort of pull down the rope and then move across a shallower area. And two of them made it across relatively easily. I mean, it'd be a bit scary. And the third person clearly had a lot of nerves going on, and they repeatedly wound the rope around their forearm.
Oh.
Okay.
And that was what their purchase was. And we watched this and we're like, that's not a good idea. That's a pretty good way to get entrapped. And they proceeded across the main flow, fell. And actually what held them in position and didn't allow them to be washed down and off the edge of the big waterfall was this crazy wrap that they had around their arm.
Oh, wow.
And that secured them. And they ended up just having the water flow push them to the other side of the river where they were rescued by their buddies. But it was a series of unknown decisions that came with a good outcome, which you need a bit of luck sometimes out there. And that was one that stands out in my mind as essentially dodging the bullet, so to speak, by a level of incompetence. But actually, their incompetence saved them.
You're saying that wasn't part of the plan. They're like, well, if I slip, then the wrap will save me, and then the flow of the water, the current will just push me to the side. That wasn't part of the plan.
I feel as I watched it, as they became more and more nervous, they put more and more wraps on their arm, and they couldn't have. It's called ferrying. It's where your body essentially aligns 45 degrees to the current, maybe, and it actually uses the force of the water, high pressure, low pressure, to move you across the current in a diagonal fashion. And he surfed it perfectly. He surfed this little wave and came out to a little eddy on river left, and his buddies ran down and got him. And it's once again defying statistical chances of death without any awareness of how it happened, probably.
That's crazy.
Just stupidity saves them.
Yeah. Okay, so if you were like the little angel flying in onto the shoulder and you're like, here's what you should have done, would you have just suggested to press the red button before crossing the stream?
I perhaps wouldn't have got there in the first place. I mean, I think it's that point of quite often it's going one step too far that leads to the accident. And it's that cascade effect, literally, where you make this little mistake here and you keep going, and it gets worse and worse with the consequence. They had got themselves to a very exposed location on that western side, River Right, and they were locked into a destination on the other side. And they stuck with it, and they made it, and they've got a good story, but they probably don't know the video exists because the climber shot it from well above them.
So if you're doing the river crossing and you got two guys or girls that were more experienced or felt calm, why would they not put that person in the middle that's like scared? You know, like I guess have them go first.
Yeah, ultimately it was an independent piece because you were just out there holding the rope. So whether you're first or third doesn't make any difference because you're just holding the rope. That's where the safety is. But typically in river crossings, you need to look at who's the weakest link. It's generally the smallest person, and it's maybe the person who has a little less confidence, and that should define whether you do a river crossing or not. It's not my level of competence, it's the weakest person, because when it goes wrong, you're chasing them downstream.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at me and Carl, who do you think's the weakest link? Just so you know.
I'm assuming from the picture you're taller, larger. You're great. We put you at the front to break the force of the water and create an eddy behind you, and us smaller people then go behind, and we have that benefit because the water drops behind you. So you could, when you're crossing a river, you'll have that wedge technique or a line technique. You have the biggest, strongest, tallest person up front to displace as much water as possible, so the smaller people have to fight less, and then we can support you from behind.
That makes sense.
But Ben's bigger, so you're
every time we go backpacking, Carl just keeps feeding me. Now I know why. It's like, you're bigger, you're going first.
Well, I think it's that other point when you have somebody who's bigger or someone more competent, you use them as the probe. Okay, let's figure out what's going on here.
Okay.
Because again, you're trying to figure out, what will happen for the weakest person? The weakest person, technically, physically, emotionally, is going to be the person that slows you down. So you manage them to maintain your speed and your schedule.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. All right. Yeah. So you mentioned, that's in the Yosemite Falls area. And last year we talked about how I had that search and rescue like back in, 20 some odd years ago. And then after we chatted, you went and found the 1996 report for this. And you had to dig through files in a filing cabinet to find it.
Well, I want to be really clear. I designated it to someone. I said, hey, there's a story. This is kind of what we know. Yeah. And our archivist was like, oh, let me go and look for that. And they found it incredibly fast.
Yeah.
They knew where to look in this age of paperwork.
Right.
And I got it back, and then we had a good giggle over it. And we're like, series of bad decisions with a good outcome.
Yeah, this guy's still around, strangely.
Yeah, still around. Yeah. I have a friend of mine was a base jumper for a very long time and a wingsuiter. And there's that line still around. He has a film out, Learning to Fly. And at one point in it, somebody looks at him 9 months into his career where he's doing a lot of jumps and learning how to wingsuit. And an old hand looks at him, just says, oh, you're still alive. With the idea you're pushing the margins so much.
Right.
Yeah. So, a couple questions, I guess, is why do you still have those files from, I guess it's almost 30 years ago now? Like, why is that even a file cabinet anywhere there? Is that for lawsuit type reasons, or what would be the reason behind that?
Exactly. You going, what happened?
Okay.
There's always going to be somebody who says, hey, let's look back and see what the history is behind it. And it's just a file cabinet. I mean, now it's all digital, so it doesn't really matter. Right. And we're just waiting for that moment to digitize it, and then it'll be virtual. I quite like that there's a fantastic video that we use in training, which is a search and rescue response on the Merced River. That's the biggest mess you've ever seen in your life. And it involves somebody stuck in the middle of the river, and then a search and rescue team leave in an overpacked raft. They miss the person they're going to rescue. They go downriver, they flip. Everybody gets yard sailed, and we have to rescue all the rescuers. And it's great because if you look at the video, there are all these profound lessons about overloaded boat, not really having a plan. When it goes wrong, where's your safety?
Right.
There's truth, and then there's the paperwork, and the paperwork doesn't reflect the scale of what went wrong in that moment.
Okay.
Right.
So it often is a balancer or just another resource to consult.
And it's hard because when you read the paperwork, there's more questions that you're trying to study. I mean, your paperwork's a little different because you kind of probably remember a lot of the scenarios, but we do our 6 minutes to safety each morning briefing. And, you know, it's always like, well, what were they thinking, you know, lighting the fire this way instead of that way? And sometimes you just don't even know the answers.
Yeah, and sometimes we rush to judgment. I think
Mhm.
sometimes in review, it's who can we blame as opposed to what can we learn.
Right.
And if you're in a position of what can we learn, it opens up a lot more opportunity for honesty. And
Right.
we live in a litigation somewhere it's litigious. It's like people are trying to figure out, ooh, how do we get a little bit of an edge to maybe get some money out of this? And that actually stamps down candor, and candor is where we learn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have multiple experiences with different folks in our groups that like to bring a gun backpacking in various areas. And so in all your experiences and conversations you've had with other search and rescue members, has anybody ever saved themselves by having or discharging a gun with them?
I think if you're having to discharge a gun, you've got to ask yourself, you've got to start first with what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to say no, but I have had some interesting experiences in North Carolina. I had a rescue with we used to use prison gangs a lot to pull people out. So you would work with these offenders and there'd be 2 or 3 of you in search and rescue and a bunch of offenders.
Wow.
And you'd be carrying people out, and it would be quite exciting. And we had a super involved drag through rhododendron for miles in Western North Carolina. And this prison crew, I was working with a guy, I remember his name was Mud, and we would have regular smoke breaks away from the oxygen that we were dispensing to the patient. And it went on for a long time, this sort of dragging through. And the one thing about these crews is they were immensely strong, but they lacked stamina. The diet probably didn't promote the explosive nature of response, like carrying stuff, great, but dragging for miles, they were getting tired. So we had more and more smoke breaks, and it got darker and darker. And we were doing fine on a navigation. And then the local search and rescue team said, "Where are you?" And we were like a few hundred meters out. And we were like, "Will we there soon?" And they said, "We'll fire off gunshots to guide you in." And I remember as the gunshots went off, lying over the patient and being like, "It's going to be okay. We're not under attack." Because it felt like sort of Vietnam or something with guns like blazing. And
Yeah,
I told this story to someone, and they said, "Oh, you've forgotten a really important part," which was there was an amphibious like vehicle that the search and rescue team then drove into the rhododendron and to rescue us. And when it got there, we discovered that the only way to use it was to take the driver off and have the patient essentially drive it. And so there was this ridiculous moment where it turned around, it did this sort of crazy turn, and it very slowly drove out. And then we walked behind carrying the litter. It was like an awful search and rescue procession. Yeah.
That sounds like North
no
Carolina.
Whistles? Like I thought whistles would be part of the like 10 essentials for search and rescue.
So whistles are great, and if you've got a really good way of using them and you wait, people get very excited when they hear a whistle, and then suddenly you've got a whole bunch of whistles going off. You got no idea what's going on. And gunfire is never a good thing to come in on. So, yeah.
Wisdom right there. Wisdom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
But
I'm just
yeah,
gonna,
but
go ahead, Ben.
yeah, but our guys, when they bring guns, they're more thinking wild animals. They're not thinking like, if I get lost, we was just gonna
Right, but that's why I said, is there any
Yeah.
scenario? And he said no. He said there's not a scenario where that's ever helped, right?
Yeah.
Even with wild animals.
Yeah, and I've been in a lot of. I mean, I've guided in crocodile country in Australia. I've been doing a lot of stuff in the bush in southern Africa with lion and elephant and buffalo. And guns change the way that you view the outdoors. Like being in grizzly country, a gun's great if you're really prepared, but it's a bear is what 1,200 pounds and closing at 42 feet per second.
Right.
You've got to you've got to know what you're doing.
Right.
And I think in all of my time, the only time I can remember discharging a gun was in southern Africa, where I got between roosting baboons. Baboons come out the veldt and they go up on the cliffs and they roost. And I just got between them and the cliffs, and they didn't like it at dusk. and I fired a gun off just to warn them, and like, because they tend to do feints and come in and check you out, and they're not trying to attack you, they're just trying to distract you so the family can get up on the cliffs.
Okay.
And it's unnerving. I was 18 and I hadn't I thought I played being in the bush, but I'd never been in the bush.
Right.
And so I fired off a couple of shots. But
so a baboon wasn't going to push you off the cliff had you not done that.
No, and baboons are kind of wild animals. What you do when you set up for camp is you would sort of park your Land Rover at the time, and then you put a little sort of set of rocks in little piles around the campsite. And when you see a baboon, you just throw a rock across it so you can see it, and you're like, oh, they go, okay, it's a little offensive, I'll stay out. And I was up in the northern part, up on the Chobe, and this big old, they're big animals. And I flicked a rock at it, and this thing couldn't have been more casual. It sat back on its haunches, and it just side-eyed me, and it's opened its mouth, and its incisors are like an inch and a half long. They're huge. They'll kill leopard. If they get the chance, they'll mass attack a leopard. And I thought, oh, I've overstepped my boundary here. And I took a step back and said, I need to give a bit more room. And that's nature. It's like understanding what it's telling you.
Yeah. So 2 things. First, the teeth are larger than Carl's 1-inch knife that he has that he uses for protection. But have you ever tried like a Tarzan scream to like scare him away? Like, do you think that would be a better option?
Getting back to the whistle too.
Well,
no, whistles are not going to help, Carl.
It's again, it's like, it's what you're projecting. So you have being in the bush with elephant. So I've been in the bush with elephant and I had them move so close to you that you can feel the air displaced and you can taste them on the roof of your mouth because they're so musky. The smell is so powerful and pungent, and you're just sitting there and you're letting them know you're there, and they move through and they're fine. And within moments, some other people that were camping there that we didn't know ran out to see them and came in fast and hard, and the elephants charged. So projection is a key piece. And if you were up in Zambia where you've had really heavy poaching, the elephants are very suspicious of people. So if people are getting stomped to death somewhere, they're getting stomped to death in Zambia. It just happened. And it's probably because within living memory, these animals live 60 years, that they're like, oh, I remember somebody doing something like that and they shot at me, and they come in hard and aggressive. So and grizzly bears, there are people who will say that bears recognize the outline of a gun.
Oh, okay.
And that you project because you have that. And I was up on the Copper River, and we carried a gun and we carried bear spray, and we were in really thick country and getting water. It's the most scared I've been in grizzly country. But it's also that idea that this enormous animal can close so fast, and if it wants to, there is very little you can do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So in conclusion,
bears are different.
It's fair to say that the gun is a 5-pound dead weight that you're bringing that's not worth it and is more likely to make other people uncomfortable. I think that's my conclusion, Ben. Is that your conclusion?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the guns. I mean, I got 2 that I always bring, so.
That you always bring?
Always bring Carl.
Oh, sun's out, guns out. He's talking about.
Those pythons are sick. You need a vet. Yeah.
All right. So, okay, we wanted to lean on your expertise a little more here. Over the years, we've watched all sorts of movies that have outdoor stunts and outdoor scenes and just interesting things going on. And sometimes we know it's just like a fun action movie, but sometimes we're like, is that really the right way to do things, or could that really happen? And so Ben and I picked 6 movie scenes that we're going to run by you, and we want to get your expertise on them. All right. Yeah. So Ben, can you describe the first movie in a scene?
Yeah. So the first movie is Rambo, the first one, where First Blood. He's getting chased by the cops and the National Guard. Everybody's after him, and he gets to a cliff, and he goes, the only way to get through is down. And so he just kind of jumps and lets the tree branches break his fall.
So he jumps off of a cliff.
Yeah.
Like we're talking
like 100 feet. Yeah. We're
100 feet up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. At least.
And he jumps, he does like a flip into a tree and lets the tree branches, like you said, break his fall, right?
Yeah. And he's bouncing off of them. And it looks like he remains kind of unscathed, has a little maybe bruised rib, but that's it. What do you think?
Well, I've actually had direct experience of this. So I went to the summer camp where on the staff lounge, they had a deck that was about 25, 30 feet off the ground, and 76 inches away was this big, tall oak. And people would jump off the deck and grab the tree and then slide down it. It was called the tree jump, obviously.
Okay.
Wait, how high up are they though?
You're 25, 30 feet off the ground.
Okay,
and you're sort of jumping into nothing because they cut all the other trees down around it. And it's six, so essentially a 6-foot jump. And it took me 7.5 years to figure out, get up the courage to actually do it. And then I went the whole base camp up. And so I know you can jump and you can hit a tree, but it is quite painful. But for this one, I thought a lot about, there's a top climber, Lynn Hill, who was the first person to free the nose on El Cap, and she took a 70+ foot fall when she didn't tie into a harness correctly. She's a gymnast, and she ended up falling into a tree, and essentially the tree saved her. So I look at this one, and I'm like, 100 feet, your body would take a pretty big beating,
right?
But it kind of makes sense, and I know that there's a world-class climber who survived in part because she managed to land in a tree. So I'm going to give that one a passing grade.
Wow,
that's exciting.
As you're falling, do you want to like spread your arms out and try to catch branches, or just like kind of shield your organs and kind of bounce
if
around?
you have the presence of mind to think about what you're doing, I will be really impressed. My bet is that you haven't. You're screaming and just bouncing off stuff.
That's hilarious.
All right.
Okay. And I'm thinking, obviously, most of us, when we go backpacking, we're not getting chased by bad guys. But if there is an aggressive animal that's chased us to a cliff, or like you're saying, if you're rock climbing, I guess those are scenarios where that could happen. Or if you slip off of a ledge, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of realistic scenarios besides getting chased by bad guys, essentially. So, all right. Aim for the trees, folks.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Next one is, I don't know if this is your favorite movie, Cliffhanger, Sylvester Stallone. And we could have picked 20, 30 scenes from this movie and asked you about, but I tried to pick one that was maybe the most realistic. And so essentially there's the bad guys are trying to get Sylvester Stallone like down from like on top of a ledge. And so he starts shooting these like grenade type things and kind of blowing up the snow up top, and it causes an avalanche. So I'm not asking about the guns causing the avalanche thing. I'm asking more about like what happens when there's an avalanche and you're up against a rock face. So Sylvester Stallone like kind of backs his body up against the rock face. The other bad guys do the same thing. And the avalanche kind of goes over them, but doesn't actually knock them off of the cliff. Is that I mean, I know there's not a lot of options in that situation, but would they have survived that, do you think?
So, well, this is important. This is another important piece to remember with Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger happens to be one of my favorite movie experiences ever. I saw it when it first came out. I was in Zimbabwe in Southern Africa, and it's the greatest cinema experience of my life because the audience would not sit still. And the moment, I don't know you remember, there's a pit where he's running across the bridge. Everybody stood up and was just going, run, run, and shouting. And then he jumps and gets it, and people are high-fiving and hugging each other. It was the most dynamic, it was the most amazing experience.
They knew it was a movie, right? Like they weren't like, okay.
Total crowd participation. It was so good. We went to see Jurassic Park there the next night, and that was equally as exciting.
That's hilarious.
So
that'd be fun.
in terms of the avalanche dynamics, it's a little spindrifty at first. There's little bits coming down, and then more comes down.
Right.
Avalanches did tend to sort of happen in set routes. You look at it, you go, oh, that's the path of an avalanche, because you can see from the tree growth or the shape of the land. If it's coming off the top, you'd imagine it's got some energy to sort of move out and away from the cliff.
Right.
Come off the edge and just go straight down. So my bet, I'm going to say survivable if you're sitting on a ledge, probably if you're up against the cliff. It works with rockfall. If you get in up against the cliff, you make yourself less of a target. So I'm going to say that give it that C+.
C+.
I like the way it pans back and it shows large amounts of snow coming, and then you watch him put a bag look at the money over his head as if that's going to deflect it.
Right.
That's a failing grade right there. That's not a way.
He was search and rescue, so he should have known better.
He also was very poorly equipped as far as like clothing. He was like wearing a t-shirt at that moment, and I would be just so cold and non-functional, which might have been the reason he put the thing over his head. He's hypothermic. He's not making good decisions.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so C+ on that one.
Next one's from City Slicker, so another old one. One of my favorites, watching with my parents. And so this one, they're trying to cross the river with a whole bunch of cattle. He gets off to save the small calf that they are attached to, and he is trying to get off the river, and he's holding on to this calf, and I think he's using it for flotation. So in my mind, I'm like, grab another calf, right? So you have one under each arm.
There's no other calf in the river. There's one that's going down the river.
No, I know, but I'm saying if you have to, try to find another calf to cross the river with. But yeah, all right,
bring a calf with you to save the calf. You're saying?
Yeah, I mean, right. Or when we go backpacking, we should have a calf with us if we know we're doing water crossing.
Wisdom right there. Wisdom again. Okay.
Well, I think for this one, it's the classic. An animal goes in the river. The best chance for an animal to actually get out is probably the animal. And I had a colleague of mine whose dogs got swept into the ocean in Northern California. They entered the water to rescue their dogs, and they subsequently drowned, and the dogs made it.
Oh, really?
So I think that's one that jumped out at me. And looking at this video, it's of all of the clips, it's the most realistic because you're out in real flow and you're in the middle and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. And the Billy Crystal character's keeping his head above the water and sees to be a defensive swim position with the cow downstream and his feet downstream. But the thing that saves him is contact with another person. It's not a rope. It's not something really involved. It's really simple. And the majority of rescues are like that. They're once you get your hands on somebody from a stable position, you can normally stabilize them and rescue them. And I think that catch where the person's on a tree, where they aren't in the water initially, is a really good technique. Don't put yourself in any more danger in order to rescue someone. If you have to be in the water floating with them, managing your own airway is going to be a big enough challenge as opposed to somebody else with a calf.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to give that one a B+.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, because when they take that long shot of it flowing down, you realize the immensity of the power of water and how powerless you are in it to battle it. You have to work with the water.
Okay. Well, let me give you my non-expert reaction to that scene. So I thought because they were all entering the river, or he was entering the river at the same point where his buddies were. So I thought, if there's no trail, how are his buddies going to catch up and then surpass him to get ahead of him to save him? And then if they somehow did, I would have guessed you would have wanted them to reach out some sort of large branch to have more of a chance to get saved versus just your hand.
It all works. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of a lot of rescue is you're teaching people, hey, figure out what's going to work. And it's very rare that it is completely, if we're having this incident, this is how we do it. In LA, in storm drain, high flow, they have prescriptions about which bridges to put ropes on. This is the method we're going to use because it's a uniform channel and we kind of know what's going to happen all the time.
Right.
But for us in Yosemite, different flows have different challenges and you just adapt.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I always wonder about that one because we live on the river. We get quite a bit of calls for river rescues, and most of them are recovery, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So if people they see their person go in the water, and a lot of times they call to them, and then they try to get to them, but there's no road that follows the river really or trail. So what would be the best, I guess, scenario is you see your friend go in the water, obviously visual contact, but if that's not an option, what's the next thing to try to do to rescue them?
Well, the first thing is to look at your watch and figure out what time they went in, because that's going to figure out all the response going forward, because someone's going to say, hey, if you have to have downstream containment and the river's run at 25 miles an hour and they've been in the water for 30 minutes, that's a long way downstream that you need to have containment. And then apart from that, it's figuring out, as you said, how to get to below them or to get to a point where they might stall out in the current in an eddy. And I think all of it comes back to that point of think about where you are close to the river. If we were in Northern Australia, very few people in Northern Australia drown. And why is that? crocodiles.
Oh.
So you stay away from the river because you know there's a crocodile in there.
Gotcha.
And so there's this thing keeping us back from fish. Whereas when we don't have that ever-present danger, we're like, oh, this is benign.
Okay.
And that's where we get into trouble. So it's managing all incidences beforehand. It's not during.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if we introduce crocodiles to Yosemite rivers, you might be out of a job then.
Or alligators.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I remember being in the Everglades, and we used to do trips up and down. It's a 100-mile stretch on the Everglades National Park, and one of the co-instructors was out in the water, and she said, "There are some big fish around me," and I said, "Get out the water," and they were sharks. and I love the fact that Kristen was like, "They're just big fish," and she's right. But they were sharks, and that's why you shouldn't be in the water at that time of the day.
Right. Another safety tip right there. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one we got is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So you're in an airplane. You don't have any parachutes, but somehow you have like a life raft. And so you're above land. You're above a mountainous terrain that somehow has like a smooth grade going down. If you jump out of the crashing airplane, inflate the raft mid-air, will the raft provide enough like air resistance similar to a parachute to like slowly or safely lower you to the ground, where then you can ride the raft down the mountain?
No.
Okay.
Everything about that was fantastic fantasy. The idea you leave an aircraft at 150 knots and then this thing sort of just wanders down like a leaf is insanity, because you're going to hit terminal velocity pretty quick. Okay. And if you're doing terminal velocity onto a bouncy castle, you're not going to stay in the position. There's going to be a rebound effect. Or you're just hitting concrete, which is compacted snow, and you're going to stop real quick. Okay. So I'm going to give that one beyond a failing grade. It's absolutely nutty. No.
Choose better movies, Carl. So this comes from my favorite movie, The Guardian. So they're Coast Guard rescues. They're in Alaska, cold, frigid water. They're rescuing people off ships. Right. And on the final rescue, they're hoisting up Kevin Costner, and the rope starts to break. The winch, it starts to break. And you know, Ashton Kutcher's like, "I'm not gonna let you go," and he goes, "I know." And then he like releases his glove. He falls like 100 feet into the water, which is like cement at that thing, and they never see him again. And so for me, and I'll get your opinion, I feel like there's other options like lowering the helicopter to maybe like, you know, have it be a gentle fall, and then rescue him. But yeah, what do you think?
So cables are maintained pretty closely on those ships. So they have a prescribed hours of operation. So 55, I wrote it down, 55 hours of actual operation on a cable, and then you would just get rid of it, regardless of what condition it's in.
Yeah.
So to have that level of catastrophic failure, which is the internal core starting to unwind, only in movies does catastrophic failure take so long. And so in order to get dialogue in, there's multiple moments of catastrophic failure. Right. So I think it would happen very quickly. And what it fails to talk about is when that happens, that cable where it breaks the energy has to go somewhere.
Right.
And the energy goes out and typically into the rotors.
Okay.
And so it's a catastrophic failure for the helicopter as well. Okay. So I'm going to say it's not beyond the bounds of believability that you would have a cable failure.
Yeah.
But the nature of that failure, I feel, is very dramatic, as it should be in a movie. Right. So I'm going to give that one a plausible D, because you kind of see it happening.
Right. So would you lower the helicopter then, like, you know, to try to help him?
So I am terrified of helicopters. I've only been in them a few times in operations. I will do everything I can. I was once on a search and rescue in Wales, and they use very big helicopters. They're enormous helicopters. Yeah. And I noticed that all of us were putting our harnesses on very slowly because the team had said the first person to get the harness on is going up, and we were all very carefully putting our harnesses on to not finish first. And one guy finished first, and he got on. We're all like, "Whoo, we don't have to get on that one."
Like, where's the clip for this? How do I strap this in?
So what I would say is, yeah, I mean, the helicopter pilots are extraordinary. For our operator, he will get within a handful of feet of the cliff and be flying it, looking out of the bubble. And what they can do is amazing. But the risks with that cable underneath are massive. So I as soon as the lower you get in the helicopter, it changes the way it operates as far as what it can get in lift. So the closer you get to the surface of the water, it actually gets more dangerous.
Right, you got the air wash too. Yeah.
So you have less to kind of support your efforts to stay up in the air. So
it's like a hoverboard, Carl.
Yeah, I'm going to step back and say you should really get a pilot on and listen to their terrifying stories of survival.
Okay. We might do that. All right. We'll
another
circle back to that.
I like that one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Last one we got. Probably my favorite one from the 1960s. Not a movie, just a video. The Patterson-Gimlin film. The famous Bigfoot's walking along, looking back at the camera. You've been out in the wild enough times, different experiences, different continents. What's your take on this one?
If there is a 900-pound bipedal ape living in America that we haven't found yet on a camera, I am amazed. All right. And the fact that the best film is shot so long ago. The thing that really stands out to me is I actually did an informal study of roadkill in Yosemite called Splat Goes the Weasel after getting some speeding tickets, and everything was getting run over. And I would say in America, with the driving, the roads, the fact we haven't hit a Bigfoot yet is extraordinary. Because we hit moose, buffalo, cows, llamas, people, all other vehicles. We hit everything, right? So the idea that this animal is so clever that it can avoid it boggles the mind. So am I open to it? Yeah, it'll be fantastic if it was. But do I believe it? No. However, I was camping up on the Rogue River, and there's tons of like Bigfooty stuff out there. And I'm a scientist. I'm like, this thing doesn't exist. And I went off to a really remote place and I settled down for the night and I got all cozy. And then I just woke up and was like, I'm now freaking myself out on something that doesn't exist. And I packed my stuff up and I went to another campsite. So that the terror of the unknown, right, is kind of the thing that drives it as opposed to fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm going to give it a unconfirmed rating, which I haven't given before for this clip, and say enjoy it. If that's what gets you out in the outdoors to enjoy being in wild spaces, go for it.
All right. Well, thanks for evaluating the random movie clips that we showed you. I actually got some higher grades than I thought, to be honest. So
yeah, I surprised myself too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we didn't have this last time you were on, but we've got a new segment called the lightning round, where you've got 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can. And these could just be quick ones. Some might require thought, and some might be related to the things we've been talking about or not. So the timer starts after Ben asks his first question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. All right. You mentioned all the animals you encountered. Which one was the scariest?
Oh, grizzly bears, hands down.
Which generation requires the most rescues?
Oh, I'm going to go with gender, male, and anything anybody between the age of 18 and 25.
Okay.
Wow.
Gen Z.
Yeah. All right. Where do you think Bigfoot lives?
In your imagination.
An important piece of gear that's commonly forgotten.
Passport.
Trekking poles, to bring them or not to bring them?
If you're my age, bring them. They're fantastic.
Favorite trail food?
Anything with garlic.
Yeah. Hot Pockets or pizza rolls?
Neither.
Oh.
Do you ever have the dream where it feels like you're falling?
Yes. Often. It's a stress-related dream, and I've had it in the last 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
Favorite
And
hiking-
time. All right. Let's see. Did we get to 8?
We got to 8.
All right. That's our average right there. Well done.
Okay, thank you.
Ben, any reactions to any of the things he said?
I mean, the pizza rolls, Hot Pockets. I mean,
You keep on asking that question.
I know, because
Yeah.
I'm always torn because I like pizza rolls, but my son likes Hot Pockets. So
Yeah, I'm with him. Neither.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
they're so good.
other things out there now. That the idea that when I started guiding, there was this thing called TVP, called textured vegetable protein, and you
Okay.
would mix it with some other spices, and then you would have a sort of there'd be an organic effect on your body that everybody would have to put up with because of this. But it was a good vehicle for butter, quite honestly. You would just load up the fat in there. And now there's so many tasty treats out there. Is the thing?
Yeah, like pizza rolls.
Yeah, potentially. And again, if that's what allows you to enjoy the outdoors, keep doing it. It's okay. It's not hurting anybody.
Oh, I'm not enjoying it. I'm watching movies and having pizza rolls.
There's not a pizza rolls on the trail. You don't usually see those.
Yeah, I might have to try. I might try bringing it sometime.
Right.
We had a food drop in North Carolina, and they dropped a watermelon to eat at the food drop. And at some point, there was some miscommunication with the instructors, and a student just packed this watermelon. I mean, it's huge in their backpack. And the instructors didn't think about it for 2 days. And then suddenly the kid popped it out on the trail and was like, hey, when are we going to eat this thing? And he'd been carrying it for like 48 hours. And it was like, oh my God, watermelon, this is such a treat.
Yeah.
Should have eaten it right back at the food drop.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
man.
kid was a hero that day, though.
Oh, total hero.
Yeah.
And if he's out there listening to this, I'm still telling the story 30 plus years on. Way to go,
hilarious.
mate.
Yeah, not a
We
kid
gotta
anymore,
figure-
probably.
We got to figure out how to do some food drops, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for sure. Last question we got, of course, is can you tell us about like the classes you offer, books you've got published, anything from your website you'd love to share? What you got?
So I've got a couple of books. I've got When Accidents Happen. It's a crisis communication manual for when we're working with families during an incident, whether it's a search or recovery. I have a memoir, Searching, talking about search and rescue, getting out there. This is not about high sort of drama. It's about the mundane stuff in the background and ridiculousness of some of the calls I've been on, and
which is more fun.
And I think there are moments in there which are like snorkeling on a dead bear to discover if I can take its radio collar off is a classic call out where you're like, I wish somebody hadn't actually dispatched me to that one. And then there are people who just do silly things and we laugh about it, and then it's coupled by tragedy. And then I do national trainings. I'm a swiftwater instructor with Rescue 3 and Sierra Rescue International, and I do trainings in national parks and around the country. And my primary training is family liaison officer, which is the incident commander representative to families when incident goes sideways and we have a fatality, and working with them, figuring out what they need and making sure they have clear, accurate, undeniable truth when we're talking about the incident.
Wow. I think when my kids are out of the house, I got a little more time in the summertime. I want to take one of those classes for sure. I just feel like the more knowledgeable I am as a trip leader out in the backcountry, the better off my trips are likely to be. So, Moose, thank you for everything that you do.
That was awesome.
All the search and rescues and all the advice and wisdom you provided over the years, everybody you've helped, even all the nonsense you've put up with and the patience you show people and the grace you show people. Thank you for everything, especially, and for coming on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it, and have a good rest of the summer. And have a safe summer.
All right, my friend. What'd you think about that?
Wow.
Takeaways.
He's very knowledgeable. I like talking to the search and rescue, and then every time he talks, he's like, oh yeah, when I was in Wales, I had this happen. This species. I mean, we need to have him on and just talk about like animals,
or his life. Just
life in general. Cause he just is been all over the world. And so very knowledgeable guy,
He's lived all over the world.
Very professional. I think I agree with most of that. I think the Guardian one I'm still torn with. Like, the cable can snap any moment. I mean, gear breaks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know.
But what he was saying is that like they typically would retire the cable before you even get to that point. So that's one follow-up question I meant to ask was like, okay, just the fact that the cable was fraying and not able to hold the weight. Is that by itself pretty unrealistic? And it sounds like it was.
Yeah, like I mean, you think about it, if it snaps, it's going up to the rotor. So, but he did answer the question. You can't really bring the helicopter lower to the water to make it less painful. So it sounds like that was kind of the right decision. I don't know.
The lower you bring the helicopter to the water, the more risky it is. It's like unsafe. So he said that they likely wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, right. So that was a good question that he answered. And then I just think like Kevin Costner could have like jumped onto the little like, I don't know, skids, I guess, for the helicopter. I don't know the terms, but
I don't know.
I held on.
All I do know is like in the scene when they're having this moment of like saying goodbye, and then like he lets go, and then he grabs his arm and that stuff. Even when I was watching the first time, I was like, this is taking too long. Like that thing is gonna break. You're like, you gotta either like let go or not let go. You can't, you can't do both. So that was my thought.
Yeah. Which one stood out to you?
Yeah, I wanted to believe in the Indiana Jones thing because it just seems like there's so much air resistance with that raft that maybe it would kind of like flutter down like a leaf. But he's made a good point with the speed of the airplane. I don't know. I'm not a science guy, so what do I know? So that was, that one was fine. The cliffhanger one, I did actually think that stunt was the most realistic, or one of the more realistic ones.
Yeah.
But the one I was most excited about was definitely the first blood one, because I was like, I could see that actually working. Like I could see that you'd be beat up. You'd probably have cracked bones or whatever, but I could see you actually surviving that.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's like trying to figure out how you're going to bounce off just right. But you're probably, after the first hit, it's probably painful. And then after that, you're like, all right, just get me to the ground.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
So just give me to the ground.
We forgot to ask, trees probably matter because oaks, are a little harder wood, where he's fallen into pines. And so they kind of have a little more give to them. So it's probably, aim for the pine trees would be my guess too.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on the pine tree, man. Some of those branches are pretty sturdy.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good question. Yeah, what kind of tree? You can ask them that next time. What's the best tree to fall into from a 100-foot fall, like a flip fall? Yeah, next time, save that one. All right. Well, thanks again to Moose for coming on our show. I got a couple tidbits. So basically, they're just I got one reaction. And that was like a couple episodes, actually more than a couple episodes ago, a while ago. We were talking about, I forget what the context was, but I was talking about how it was silly to bring bear spray into the Windover range because there's like, it has access to grizzlies, but there's no grizzlies there.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because you haven't seen one, so there's no grizzlies. Like that's usually your determination.
Correct.
Like,
yeah, isn't that right?
Don't bring bear canisters because I haven't seen a grizzly.
Bear canisters and bear spray are different. No, I still stand by my statement about like people that bring bear spray typically are more likely to hurt themselves with the bear spray than they are to actually like use it. I know they've had successful uses, so I don't want to say that as a blanket statement, but I guess in the recent years, there have a lot of grizzlies have kind of wandered down there, and actually there has been a grizzly attack and a grizzly death, or grizzly bear causing a death in the Windover range. I think it was a couple years ago, which is after my intel. So I guess I was wrong on that one. I apologize.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pointed out by 801 Dirtbags, YouTuber, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's one. The other one is my buddy Jared messaged me that the national parks put out like a public service statement on basically not using flip-flops on the trail. What do you think about that?
Ooh. What is there a reason why? Like too many people getting injured or rattlesnake bites? Or?
So it's like they try to get creative. So something like it's like flippy floppy is slippy sloppy.
Oh, weird. I didn't know that was like a thing. Is that like tourists are like showing up and then also like, oh, let's go for a walk, and then they just start walking, or is this like true like ultralighters that want to shave weight and just bring?
I've seen both.
That's crazy. I can't. That first time I've heard of like people wearing flip flops on the trail. Like,
we got a dude who's done 40, 50 miles. Yeah, in flip flops on a backpacking trip, and he's fine. I don't know that he's like the standard or the example that wants to be set for everybody else, but. Yeah, I think generally speaking, unless you have like a lot, if you're like some sort of barefoot hiker runner guy, like I think that flip flops are probably not what you want.
Well, foot care. I mean, foot care is probably the biggest thing for backpacking, right? Because if you lose your feet, you're like not able to walk.
On the last backpacking trip, I can't tell you how many rocks I kicked, like rocks that were stuck in the ground. Yeah, where I had that plate.
It's over. Yeah,
yeah, where I had that plate in the front of my trail runner shoe, and it didn't hurt. But if I had flip flop on, that's like broken toes right there. So
yeah. or even
I
just
don't
scuffed. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. That,
Okay. Those are my tidbits.
Yeah.
That's all I got. You got anything else?
No, just remember, search and rescue's out there to save you.
That's your last line.
Yeah, well, that's what they do, man.
That is. That's really
Yeah.
that's boring. It's a boring
Well, okay.
lesson.
You want me to try a different one?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Just remember, search and rescue's out there, so you don't have to worry.
Okay. That's a rough way to end it, Ben. Have a great week and God bless.